The day I found my mother's journal was the day everything started to unravel. It was buried in a box of wedding magazines that Uncle Spencer had helpfully delivered to my apartment, probably hoping I'd follow his perfectly planned vision for my big day. I'm Michaela, and until 3 months ago, I thought I was living a fairly normal life. I had a wonderful fiancé, Brandon, a job I loved at the local art gallery, and what I believed was a supportive family. But that journal changed everything. Sweetie, have you looked through those magazines I sent over? Uncle Spencer's voice crackled through my phone speaker. I've marked some excellent venues that would be perfect for the ceremony. I was actually thinking about the botanical gardens, I said, flipping through one of the magazines. Mum always loved the botanical gardens. He cut me off with a laugh that made my skin crawl. Oh no, dear. That's far too small for the guest list I've put together. Besides, outdoor venues are terribly unpredictable. I gripped the phone tighter. But it's my wedding, Uncle Spencer. I thought, Michaela, your mother isn't here to guide you anymore. Trust me, I know what's best. I've already scheduled appointments at the Grand Plaza Hotel and the Metropolitan. We'll tour them tomorrow. The leather-bound journal had fallen from between the magazines when I'd first opened the box. Now, as I hung up the phone, I picked it up again, running my fingers over my mother's familiar handwriting on the first page. My best friend Chloe walked in just as I was about to open it. Hey, bride-to-be, ready for lunch? She stopped short when she saw my face. What's wrong? I held up the journal. It's Mom's. I haven't seen it since before she died. Chloe sat beside me on the couch. Are you going to read it? I don't know if I should. I turned it over in my hands. It feels private. She was your mother, Michaela. If she didn't want you to find it eventually, she wouldn't have kept it. I opened to a random page and a small note fell out. The paper was yellowed, the corners worn, but my mother's handwriting was clear. My dearest Michaela, if you're reading this, watch the shadows. Not everyone who claims to protect you has your best interests at heart. What does that mean? Chloe leaned in to read it. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Spencer. I've taken the liberty of booking the Metropolitan for your date. The deposit has been paid. We can discuss the details over dinner tonight. He's doing it again, I said, showing Chloe the message. Ever since Mum died, he's been trying to control everything in my life. The wedding is just his latest project. Maybe you should talk to Brandon about this, Chloe suggested. He should know how you're feeling. Brandon thinks Uncle Spencer is being generous. Everyone does. He's the successful businessman who stepped in to help his poor niece after her mother's death. I picked up the journal again. But Mom's note. It's like she knew something like this would happen. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Aunt Louisa, Spencer's wife. Your uncle mentioned you were considering the botanical gardens. Please don't upset him, dear. He's put so much thought into making this perfect for you. I threw the phone onto the couch. Perfect for me or perfect for him? Read the journal, Chloe said firmly. Your mom was trying to tell you something. And honestly, your uncle's behavior is getting creepy. I opened to the first page and began to read aloud. My darling daughter, there are things you need to know about our family. Things I've protected you from for too long. Spencer isn't the man he pretends to be. The day he came to live with us after your father left, I knew I had to start documenting everything. Chloe grabbed my arm. Michaela, look at the date. The entry was dated exactly 1 week before my mother's unexpected death. My phone buzzed one more time. Uncle Spencer again. I've invited the wedding planner to dinner tonight. 7 p.m. sharp at my house. Don't be late. We have so much to discuss. I closed the journal, my hands shaking. I always thought Mom's death was sudden. She was healthy, young. What are you saying? I don't know. I clutched the journal to my chest, but I'm starting to think finding this wasn't an accident, and maybe Mom's death wasn't either. The shadows my mother warned about were starting to take shape, and they all pointed to Uncle Spencer. I spent the entire afternoon before dinner poring over my mother's journal with Chloe. Each page revealed more disturbing details about Uncle Spencer's behaviour in the months leading up to Mum's death. "Listen to this entry," I said, my finger tracing the lines. "Spencer cornered me in the kitchen today, demanding to see the trust fund paperwork. When I refused, he smiled that cold smile of his and said, 'Your daughter's future is at stake here, Sylvia. Don't be difficult.'" Chloe leaned forward. "Trust fund? You never mentioned a trust fund." "Because I didn't know about it." I flipped through more pages. "According to Mom's notes, my father set it up before he left. It was supposed to be accessible when I turned 25. But you're 27 now." "Exactly." I closed the journal and checked my watch. "I need to get ready for this dinner. Will you keep looking through it while I'm gone?" "Of course." Chloe grabbed my arm. "But maybe you shouldn't go alone." "If I don't show up, he'll know something's wrong." I grabbed my purse. "Just keep your phone close." Uncle Spencer's house was exactly what you'd expect from a successful businessman. Modern, pristine, and cold. Aunt Louisa opened the door, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Michaela, darling." She hugged me stiffly. "Spencer's in his study with Ms. Roberts, the wedding planner." I followed her through the house, noticing how she kept wringing her hands. Before we reached the study, she suddenly turned to me. "Michaela, about the botanical gardens." She glanced nervously at the study door. "Your mother and I used to have lunch there every Sunday. She always said it would be perfect for—" "Ah, there's my beautiful niece." Uncle Spencer's voice boomed as the study door swung open. Come in, come in. We have so much to discuss." Ms. Roberts sat primly on the edge of her chair, tablet in hand. "Miss Schmidt, your uncle has been sharing some wonderful ideas." "Has he?" I forced a smile, watching Uncle Spencer pour himself a drink. "Actually, I've been doing some thinking about the trust fund." The crystal tumbler in his hand paused halfway to his lips. Trust fund. The one my father set up. I met his gaze steadily. "I turned 25 2 years ago." Aunt Louisa made a small choking sound and hurried from the room. "My dear," Uncle Spencer's voice was honey smooth. "Where did you get such an idea? Your father left us with nothing but debts. Why do you think your mother had to work so hard?" My phone buzzed in my pocket. Chloe's text read, "Found letters from your dad to your mom. Dated after he supposedly left. Spencer intercepted them." "That's not true," I said, standing up. "Mom's journal." The change in his expression was instant, like a mask slipping. "What journal?" "The one that fell out of your wedding magazine box." I took a step toward the door. "The one where she documented everything." Ms. Roberts cleared her throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should reschedule—" "No!" Uncle Spencer's shout made us both jump. He quickly composed himself. "No, please stay. Michaela is obviously upset. Wedding jitters, you understand. Now, about the Metropolitan's ballroom—" My phone buzzed again. "Chloe, get out now, called Brandon. He's on his way." "I'm leaving," I announced, heading for the door. "And I'm having the botanical gardens." Uncle Spencer grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. "You ungrateful little—" He caught himself, aware of Ms. Roberts watching. "Michaela, you're confused. Your mother's death was hard on all of us. Let me help you, like I always have." "Let go of me." I yanked my arm free. "Mom tried to warn me about you. What did you do to her?" His face went completely blank. "I'd be careful with accusations like that, dear niece. You wouldn't want to end up like your mother, would you? So much stress, so many accidents waiting to happen." A car horn blared outside. Brandon. "This isn't over," Uncle Spencer called as I rushed out. "You're making a terrible mistake." I ran to Brandon's car, my heart pounding. As we drove away, I saw Aunt Louisa watching from an upstairs window, her hand pressed against the glass. "What happened?" Brandon asked, concerned. "Chloe said you were in trouble." I clutched my phone where another text from Chloe waited. "Found something else. A letter from your mom to someone named Rebecca. Says she has proof of everything Spencer did." "I need to find someone," I told Brandon. "Someone named Rebecca." She might be the key to understanding what really happened to my mother. Behind us, Uncle Spencer's house disappeared into the darkness, but I could still feel the weight of his threats hanging in the air. The next morning, I cornered Aunt Louisa at her favourite cafe. She was already on her second cappuccino when I slid into the seat across from her. "I need answers," I said, placing Mom's journal on the table, "and I know you have them." Her hands trembled as she set down her cup. "Michaela, please. Your uncle is not here." I leaned forward. "You knew my mother better than anyone. You had lunch with her every Sunday at the Botanical Gardens. What aren't you telling me?" She glanced around nervously before reaching into her purse. "I shouldn't have kept this." She pulled out a worn photograph. "It was taken the week before your mother died." The photo showed Mom and Aunt Louisa at their usual lunch spot. Mom was holding up a manila envelope, smiling triumphantly. She looked healthy, vibrant, nothing like someone about to die from natural causes. What was in the envelope? Bank statements, legal documents. Aunt Louisa's voice dropped to a whisper. "Proof that Spencer had been embezzling from your trust fund for years. He used his position as executor to—" She stopped abruptly, colour draining from her face. I turned to see what had frightened her. Through the cafe window, I spotted Uncle Spencer across the street, watching us. "He follows you?" I asked, disgusted. "Always." Tears welled in her eyes. "Your mother tried to help me leave him, you know. She found me a lawyer, an apartment—" "When?" "The week she died." Louisa's hands shook so badly she knocked over her cup. Coffee spilled across the table, seeping into the edges of the photograph. "Oh God, I've said too much." I grabbed napkins to mop up the spill. As I did, something fell from between the pages of Mom's journal. Another photograph, this one yellowed with age. I picked it up, and my heart stopped. It showed Uncle Spencer with my father, but not from years ago as I'd expected. The date stamp showed it was taken just last year at some corporate event. They were smiling, shaking hands like old friends. "He told me Dad abandoned us," I said, showing Louisa the photo. "That was a lie too, wasn't it?" She nodded miserably. "Spencer threatened to ruin your father's business if he didn't stay away. Said he'd make sure you grew up believing your father never loved you." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your mother trusted me. Meet me at the Botanical Gardens tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Rebecca." "Do you know Rebecca?" I asked Louisa. The colour drained further from her face. "Spencer's ex-wife, the one he never talks about. She tried to warn your mother about him, but—" The cafe door chimed. Uncle Spencer walked in, his business smile firmly in place. "What a lovely surprise," he said, placing a heavy hand on Louisa's shoulder. "Having a little chat with our dear Michaela?" "We were just discussing wedding flowers," Louisa lied, her voice trembling. "Of course you were." His grip tightened visibly on her shoulder. "Darling, the car's waiting. And Michaela." His eyes fell to the photographs on the table. "Be careful with old memories. They can be misleading." As they left, Louisa glanced back at me, her eyes full of fear and something else, determination. She mouthed two words: "Trust Rebecca." I waited until they were gone before calling Chloe. "You won't believe what just happened," I started. "Wait," she cut me off. "You need to get home now. Someone broke into your apartment." I rushed home to find my place ransacked. Every drawer emptied, every book pulled from its shelf. Brandon and Chloe were already there, helping the police document the damage. "They were looking for something specific," the officer said. "Any idea what?" I clutched Mom's journal tighter in my purse, grateful I'd had it with me. "No idea." After the police left, Brandon pulled me aside. "What's really going on, Michaela? First the weird dinner, now this." I showed him the photographs, explained about Louisa's confession. His face darkened with each detail. "We need to cancel the wedding," he said finally. "No." I thought about Mom's triumphant smile in the photograph, about Louisa's trapped existence. "We need to finish what my mother started. I'm meeting Rebecca tomorrow." "Then I'm coming with you." She said to come alone. I touched his cheek. "Trust me, okay? I need to do this." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Uncle Spencer. Think carefully about your next move, dear niece. Some secrets are better left buried. Like your mother. I showed the message to Brandon and Chloe. Their faces reflected what I was feeling. Fear mixed with determination. He's threatening you now. Chloe grabbed her phone. I'm documenting everything. Tomorrow, I said, staring at the text. Tomorrow I find out what really happened to my mother. The botanical gardens were quiet at noon, except for the gentle splash of the koi pond. I sat on Mum's favourite bench, clutching her journal, when a tall woman with silver-streaked hair approached. You look just like her, she said, sitting beside me. I'm Rebecca. How did you know my mother? Rebecca pulled out a thick manila envelope. I was more than Spencer's ex-wife. I was the accountant who discovered his first embezzlement scheme. Your mother found me 10 years later, asking questions about Spencer's business practices. And you helped her? I tried. She opened the envelope. These are copies of everything your mother collected. Bank statements, forged signatures, recordings. Spencer didn't just steal your trust fund, he's been systematically destroying lives for decades. A man walking nearby caught my attention. He looked familiar, but before I could place him, he disappeared behind a hedge. Your mother was building a case against him, Rebecca continued. She had everything ready to take to the authorities. Then she had her accident. You think he killed her? I think. Rebecca stopped abruptly as my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Walk away now. Don't trust her. Dad. My hands shook. My father's here. He's been watching over you, Rebecca said softly. Spencer threatened to harm you if your father interfered. But now... She handed me another envelope. These are letters your father wrote to you. Spencer intercepted them all. I opened one at random, dated just 6 months ago. My dearest daughter, watching you from afar breaks my heart, but as long as Spencer has his hooks in the company, as long as he can hurt you, I have to stay away. I'm working on a solution. Stay strong. Love, Dad. Spencer's been blackmailing my father. Among others, Rebecca pulled out more documents. Your mother discovered Spencer had been using the company to launder money. When she confronted him, he killed her. The words felt like glass in my throat. She left this with me the day before she died. Rebecca handed me a USB drive. It's her video testimony, along with all the evidence. I've been waiting for the right time. A twig snapped behind us. We both turned to see Uncle Spencer emerging from behind a tree, his business smile firmly in place. Rebecca, he said smoothly, still causing trouble, I see. It's over, Spencer. Rebecca stood, positioning herself between us. Michaela knows everything. Does she? He looked at me with cold eyes. Does she know you were in love with her father, that you've spent years trying to destroy me out of jealousy? That's not true, Rebecca said firmly. Show her the video, Michaela. I reached for my phone, but Spencer was faster. Show her your phone records instead, all those calls to her father over the years, the hotel receipts. Don't listen to him, Rebecca pleaded. Your mother trusted me. My mother is dead. I stood up, clutching both envelopes and the USB drive. And one of you is lying. A figure stepped out from behind the hedge. My father older than in the photo, but unmistakable. Spencer's smile faltered. Hello, brother, my father said quietly, still manipulating everyone. Dad, my voice cracked. He moved to stand beside me, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. I'm here now, sweetheart, and I can prove everything. Spencer's mask finally cracked. You'll regret this, he snarled, backing away. All of you. We have copies of everything, Rebecca called after him. It's over. As Spencer disappeared down the path, my father turned to me. I'm so sorry, Michaela. I thought I was protecting you. We all did, Rebecca added. But your mother knew the truth had to come out eventually. That's why she left the journal where Spencer would accidentally expose it. My phone buzzed again. Chloe. Police just called. They found evidence of tampering with your mum's car brakes. They're looking for Spencer. I looked at my father, then at Rebecca. What do we do now? Now, Rebecca said. We finish what your mother started. The wedding is in 3 days. It's time Spencer faces everyone he's hurt. I'll help, my father said. No more hiding. I thought of Aunt Louisa trapped in her gilded cage, of my mother's final act of protection, of all the lives Spencer had destroyed. The wedding stays on schedule, I decided, but we're doing it my way. And when Spencer shows up to control everything, we'll be ready, Rebecca finished. My phone buzzed one last time. Uncle Spencer, you've made your choice. Remember what happened to the last person who crossed me? I showed the message to my father and Rebecca. Their expressions hardened. He's threatening you now? My father pulled out his phone. That's the final evidence we needed. The koi pond bubbled peacefully behind us, but the calm before the storm was over. In 3 days, everything would change. 2 days before the wedding, I sat at my kitchen table with Brandon, Chloe, my father, and Rebecca, finalizing our plan. Mom's journal lay open beside a stack of evidence we'd compiled. Are you sure about this? Brandon asked, squeezing my hand. We could just elope. No. I spread out the seating chart we'd stolen from Uncle Spencer's wedding planner. He needs to face everyone he's hurt. All at once. Chloe held up a USB drive. I've edited your mum's video testimony. It's ready to play on the reception hall's screens. Spencer will try to stop it, Rebecca warned. He always has a backup plan. My father nodded grimly. That's why we have one too. He pulled out his phone, showing us an email. The company board meets tomorrow. They're already suspicious about the financial discrepancies I've been anonymously reporting. A knock at the door made us all freeze. Through the peephole, I saw Aunt Louisa, looking nervously over her shoulder. He's planning something, she blurted as soon as I let her in. He's been making calls all day, talking about containing the situation. She wrung her hands. He knows you're all meeting here. As if on cue, my phone rang. Uncle Spencer. Speaker, Rebecca mouthed. I answered. Hello? Darling niece. His voice oozed false warmth. I've been thinking about our little scene at the gardens. Perhaps we could discuss things privately? Over dinner? Actually, I'm busy with wedding details. Yes, about that. His tone hardened. I've taken the liberty of calling your vendors. Apparently there were some issues with the payments. Such a shame if everything had to be cancelled last minute. Brandon stood up, fists clenched. I grabbed his arm. What do you want? I asked Spencer. Simple. Call off whatever little scheme you're plotting. Admit you were confused about your mother's accusations. Let me handle the wedding as planned. He paused. Or watch everything fall apart. Your choice. Like you gave my mother a choice? The line went silent for a moment. Careful, Michaela. Accidents can run in families. My father grabbed the phone. Threaten my daughter again, Spencer, and... big brother finally showing your face, tell me. How's the guilty conscience, abandoning your family, letting your wife die alone? I ended the call, hands shaking. He's scared, Rebecca said. He's making mistakes. Louisa pulled something from her purse, a small recorder. I've been saving this. It's from the night Sylvia died. He came home drunk, talking about what he'd done. Her voice broke. I was too afraid to come forward before. Chloe took the recorder. This is the final piece we needed. My phone buzzed with a text from the wedding planner. Mr. Schmidt asked me to change the reception venue. Please confirm this is okay. He's trying to derail everything, Brandon said. No, I started typing a response. Let him think he's winning. When he shows up to the botanical gardens, he'll find exactly what he deserves, my father finished. Another knock at the door. This time it was a courier with an envelope marked urgent. Inside was a single photograph. My mother's car after the accident, along with a note. Brake lines are so fragile. Would be terrible if history repeated itself. That's it. Brandon grabbed his keys. We're going to the police now. Wait. I picked up Mum's journal. She wrote something about this, about why she didn't go to the police. I found the page. Spencer owns half the force through blackmail. The only way to stop him is to expose everything at once publicly where he can't hide. The wedding, Chloe said, with all his business associates, friends, everyone he's ever manipulated in one room. He'll have nowhere to run, Rebecca finished. My father pulled out his phone again. I'll have security ready. Real security, not his people. Louisa stood straighter than I'd ever seen her. I'll testify. About everything. First, I said, we need to secure the real venue. Everyone thinks we're having it at the Metropolitan, but the Botanical Gardens staff are ready for us. What if he figures it out? Brandon asked. I thought about Mom's smile in that last photograph, holding the evidence she'd died protecting. Then we'll be ready for that too. My phone buzzed one last time. Uncle Spencer. Final chance, dear niece. Tomorrow night, dinner at my house. Come alone, or the wedding won't be the only thing that gets cancelled. I showed everyone the message. He's giving us the perfect opportunity, Rebecca said quietly. Yes, I agreed, thinking of the recorder in my purse. One last dinner with Uncle Spencer. The night before my wedding, I sat across from Uncle Spencer at his dining table wearing a wire beneath my blouse. Brandon and my father were parked around the corner listening to every word. I'm so glad you came to your senses, Spencer said, pouring wine. Family should stick together, shouldn't they? Like you stuck by my father. I took a sip, remembering Rebecca's warning to keep him talking. Your father abandoned his responsibilities? He smiled thinly. Someone had to step up, protect you and your mother. Is that what you call what happened to Mom? His hand tightened on his glass. Accidents happen, dear, especially to people who don't know when to let things go. Like her brake lines being cut? The silence stretched between us. Aunt Louisa's hands shook as she served the main course. Such an imagination you have. Spencer's voice turned cold. Like this ridiculous idea about a trust fund, all these accusations about business dealings you couldn't possibly understand. I pulled out Mum's journal. She understood. That's why you killed her, isn't it? Put that away. His mask slipped for a moment. You know, your mother had quite the drinking problem toward the end. Did she ever tell you that? Such a shame, really. Made her quite accident-prone. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Got it all. Keep going. Tell me about Rebecca, I said, watching his face. And the money laundering. He slammed his hand on the table. Louisa jumped, nearly dropping a plate. Enough! He stood, looming over me. You want to know the truth? Your precious mother was going to ruin everything. Years of careful planning, building this family's legacy. She had to be stopped. Spencer, please, Louisa whispered. Shut up! He rounded on her. You're just as bad sneaking around with that recorder. Did you think I wouldn't notice? My blood ran cold. He knew about the recorder. The wedding's off, he continued, turning back to me. In fact, you're going to check yourself into a private facility. Grief can do strange things to a young mind, make them imagine all sorts of things about trusted family members. You can't force me, can't I? He pulled out his phone. One call to the right doctor, with testimony from your concerned aunt about your recent erratic behaviour. I won't lie for you anymore, Louisa said suddenly, standing up. Sylvia was my friend. Spencer moved so fast I barely saw it, his hand connected with Louisa's face, sending her stumbling backward. That's assault, my father's voice came from the doorway. He and Brandon stood there, phones recording everything. Add it to the list. Spencer lunged for the journal, but I was faster. I backed away, bumping into the china cabinet. A photograph fell, glass shattering across the floor. It's over, I said, holding up my phone. Everything you just said has been recorded. The police are already on their way. The police? He laughed. My police? No. Rebecca stepped in from the kitchen. The federal agents who've been building a case against you for months. Your trusted officers have been feeding them information since Sylvia died. Red and blue lights flashed outside the windows. You've lost, Spencer, my father said. The board meeting tomorrow? Already happened. Your assets are frozen. Spencer's face contorted with rage. He grabbed a knife from the table and lunged at me. Brandon tackled him before he could reach me. They crashed into the china cabinet, sending glass everywhere. I heard sirens, shouts, the splintering of wood as federal agents broke down the front door. You're just like your mother, Spencer spat as they handcuffed him. She didn't know when to stop either. No, I picked up Mom's journal from where it had fallen. She knew exactly when to start. After the agents took Spencer away, Louisa sat trembling on the couch while a paramedic checked her face. "The wedding," she said suddenly. "He already called everyone, changed the venue." "Let him think he won that one," I smiled. "The botanical gardens are ready for us. The real invitations went out days ago." My phone buzzed with a text from Chloe. "Videos ready, reception screens tested, everything's set for tomorrow." Brandon wrapped his arm around me. "You okay?" I looked around at our unlikely team, my father, Rebecca, Louisa, all the people Spencer had tried to break. "I am now." "Your mother would be proud," Rebecca said softly. Tomorrow I'd walk down the aisle at the place my mother loved, surrounded by the truth she died protecting. But tonight, watching the police car take Spencer away, I finally felt free. "Let's go home," I said. "We have a wedding to prepare for." The botanical gardens bloomed with late summer flowers as guests filled the rows of white chairs. Through the gossamer curtain of my bridal tent, I watched Spencer's business associates arrive, checking their phones in confusion at the venue change. "Ready?" Chloe adjusted my veil. "The police are in position just in case." "Did everyone get the USB drives?" "Hidden under their seats right now. They'll play on their phones the moment Rebecca sends the signal." My father poked his head in. "It's time, sweetheart." He paused, taking in my dress. "You look just like your mother on her wedding day." As we took our positions, I saw Aunt Louisa slip into her seat, makeup carefully covering yesterday's bruise. Rebecca sat near the back, her finger hovering over her phone. The music started. Dad squeezed my arm as we began walking. Brandon waited at the altar, but my eyes were drawn to the commotion at the garden entrance. Uncle Spencer, out on bail, was arguing with the security guards. "That's my niece's wedding," his voice carried across the garden. "I'm family." The guard showed him something on his phone, probably his arrest report from last night, but Spencer pushed past him, straightening his tie as he strode down the aisle. Right on cue. Rebecca pressed her phone. Suddenly, dozens of phones lit up throughout the crowd. My mother's voice filled the garden. "My name is Sylvia, and if you're watching this, I'm dead. Killed by my brother-in-law, Spencer, who I've discovered has been embezzling money and destroying lives for decades." Spencer froze mid-stride. On every phone screen, my mother's face told her story. The evidence scrolled beside her. Bank statements, forged documents, surveillance photos. "Turn those off!" Spencer shouted, but more phones kept lighting up. My mother's voice continued. "He's threatened my daughter, blackmailed my husband, and corrupted everything he's touched. The proof is in your hands now." Business associates began standing up, their faces turning from confusion to anger as they saw their own stolen money documented in the evidence. "This is slander!" Spencer tried to grab a phone, but the owner pulled away. "She was unstable, drinking." "Like you said I was drinking last night." Aunt Louisa stood up. "Before you hit me." She wiped away her makeup, revealing the bruise. Spencer lunged for the altar. "I won't let you ruin everything." Brandon stepped in front of me, but he didn't need to. 2 federal agents emerged from the crowd, grabbing Spencer's arms. "New evidence came in this morning," one announced. "Your bail's been revoked." "You can't do this," Spencer struggled. "I built this family. I protected them." "Protected them?" My father's voice boomed across the garden. "You killed my wife, threatened my daughter, destroyed lives for money." The board voted this morning. A man in an expensive suit stood up. "You're out, Spencer. The company's returning everything you stole." As the agents led Spencer away, he locked eyes with me. "I should have dealt with you like I dealt with your mother." The garden went silent. One of the agents pulled out a recorder. "Would you like to elaborate on that confession, sir?" Spencer's face crumpled as he realized what he'd done. His mask finally shattered completely. "She deserved it!" he screamed as they dragged him out. "They all deserved it." The garden erupted in chaos. People were shouting, calling lawyers, watching my mother's video with horrified expressions. "Should we—" Brandon gestured at the disorder. "Maybe postpone?" I took his hand and turned to the minister. "No, we're doing this now." "Here?" Brandon looked around at the commotion. "Here." I squeezed his hand. "In my mother's favourite place, with the truth finally out. This is exactly where we should be. The minister cleared his throat. Shall we begin? Gradually, people settled back into their seats. Phones were lowered, though my mother's voice still echoed softly from a few devices. Aunt Louisa was crying but smiling. Rebecca and my father sat together, both looking relieved and exhausted. Dearly beloved, the minister began, we are gathered here today. I looked out at the garden, at the flowers my mother had loved, at the people finally free from Spencer's web of lies. In my bouquet, I'd tucked a page from her journal, her last entry, written the day she died. My dearest Michaela, never let anyone dim your light. The truth always finds its way into the sunshine. As Brandon and I exchanged vows, police sirens wailed in the distance, carrying Spencer away for the last time. But here, in the garden, surrounded by light and truth and love, justice had finally bloomed. The reception was nothing like Uncle Spencer had planned. Instead of the Metropolitan's grand ballroom, we celebrated under the stars in the botanical gardens. Paper lanterns swayed in the evening breeze as guests mingled, still processing the day's revelations. Your mother would have loved this, Aunt Louisa said, joining me at a table near the koi pond. Her bruise was visible now, but she held herself differently, lighter, freer. Did you see this? She handed me a newspaper someone had brought. The headline read, Corporate Scandal Exposed at Wedding, CEO Arrested. The reporter wants to talk to you, my father said, sitting down with us. They're calling you a hero. I shook my head. Mom was the hero. I just finished what she started. Rebecca approached with a stack of papers. The board signed everything over. The trust fund, the company shares. It's all being returned to their rightful owners. Including this. My father pulled out an envelope. Your mother's life insurance policy. Spencer blocked the payout, claiming she died by suicide. The insurance company's reopening the case. Brandon clinked his glass, calling for attention. Everyone, there's something else you should see. Chloe started a new video on the reception screens. This time it wasn't evidence or accusations. It was home movies. My mother laughing, dancing at parties, having lunch with Louisa at this very garden. I found these while going through Spencer's things, Chloe explained. He kept them, maybe as trophies. No, Louisa said softly. He kept them because some part of him knew he'd lose eventually. Your mother made sure of that. A detective approached our table. Sorry to interrupt, but we found something in Mr. Schmidt's safe. He handed me a letter. It's addressed to you from your mother. My hands shook as I opened it. My darling daughter, if you're reading this, then everything has come to light. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from Spencer's darkness, but I knew you would be strong enough to face it. The journal wasn't just evidence. It was my way of teaching you one final lesson. That love and truth are stronger than fear and lies. Remember the sunflowers we planted together? How they always turned toward the light. Be like them, Michaela. Keep turning toward the light. All my love. Mom. Brandon squeezed my hand as I folded the letter. On the dance floor, guests were watching the home movies, sharing stories about my mother, about Spencer's manipulations, about their own experiences breaking free from toxic control. The detective has more news, my father said. Spencer confessed to everything, said he was tired of running. He also gave up his accomplices, Rebecca added. Half the police force is being investigated. His network is completely exposed. Louisa stood suddenly. I want to speak at his trial. About everything. We all will, I said, standing with her. No more shadows, no more secrets. The home movies showed a clip of my mother here in the garden, pointing at something off camera. I walked to where she'd been standing and found a small plaque I'd never noticed before. The inscription read, Truth blooms in its own time. Michaela, Chloe called. They're ready for the first dance. Brandon led me to the dance floor as music filled the garden, but instead of the formal waltz Spencer had insisted on, it was my mother's favourite song, the one she used to dance to in our kitchen on Sunday mornings. Look, Brandon whispered, nodding toward the garden entrance. The evening staff were setting up a new sign. The Sylvia Memorial Garden where truth blooms. The board approved it this morning, my father explained, along with a foundation in her name to help people escape domestic abuse and financial exploitation. As we danced, I watched the people around us. Louisa laughing with Rebecca, my father sharing stories with old friends, Chloe documenting everything for the upcoming trial. All the lives Spencer had tried to control, now blooming in their own way. The letter crinkled in my pocket, my mother's words echoing in my mind. Like the sunflowers we'd planted, we'd all turned toward the light. "Ready to go home?" Brandon asked as the song ended. I looked around the garden one last time, at the flowers, the lanterns, the koi pond where my mother had spent so many Sunday afternoons plotting our freedom. "We are home," I said. "This is exactly where we're supposed to be." Above us, the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds, so much brighter than any ballroom chandelier Spencer could have chosen. In the end, my mother's garden had given us something his money never could, the space to grow toward the light, free from shadows at last.
My name is Rachel Burns. This year marks my 10th year working as a pharmacist at Newton Wellesley Hospital. This morning, as I tied back my shoulder-length brown hair, I smiled at myself in the mirror. Never forget to smile, even when you're busy. This is an important lesson my mother taught me. My smartphone shows 6:30 a.m. My hospital shift starts at 8 o'clock. Before that, I need to prepare breakfast and lunch for my son Lucas, and help my husband Michael get ready for work. Some people say I'm too much of a perfectionist, but my meticulous nature actually helps me balance work and parenting in my current lifestyle. "Mom, did you wash my soccer uniform?" An energetic voice echoes from the living room. Lucas just turned 8 this year. He's a third grader at the local elementary school and is always passionate about soccer after school. With his bright and active personality, he's popular among his classmates. Though he seems concerned about his father coming home late recently, he's grown into a kind boy who's always thoughtful of me. "I washed it last night, it's already dry," I answered, and Lucas broke into a big smile. My husband Michael works as a middle manager at an IT company. He's tall and dedicated enough to go to the sports gym 3 times a week. His neat appearance and meticulous personality might be similar to mine. Married for 8 years, until recently, others considered him an ideal husband. However, he has a side that he doesn't show to anyone. He becomes indecisive when faced with important decisions. "Good morning," Michael appeared in the kitchen after his shower and kissed my cheek. It's our daily morning ritual. But lately, something has felt different. Looking back, we met 8 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. Attracted to Michael's sincere personality, we dated for a year before getting married. At that time, my sister Ashley was the one who congratulated us most sincerely. Ashley, with her model-like figure and flashy clothes, works as a beauty influencer. She recently went through a sudden divorce 3 months ago and is now living at our parents' home. Though I'm worried about her seemingly unstable mental state, I've tried my best to be understanding. Our family lives in Riverside Gardens, a quiet residential area in the Boston suburbs. On weekends, our routine includes walking along the Charles River or having family picnics. Movie watching is also our precious family time. While Lucas loves action movies, Michael and I enjoy romantic comedies. We're particularly close with our neighbor Martha, who's a warm-hearted woman in her mid-60s. She's been looking after Lucas since he was little. She's active in the church community and sometimes brings us homemade apple pies on holidays. In the kitchen, as the toaster releases its fragrant aroma, I finished preparing breakfast. The table is set with fresh whole wheat toast, scrambled eggs, and fresh fruit. I also added a salad made with organic vegetables from Whole Foods. Michael is busy checking his smartphone this morning too, but this has become part of our daily routine. On weekends, we should be able to spend more relaxed family time together. Outside the window, birds are chirping, announcing the start of a new day. As I quietly watched my family, I wished this peaceful daily life would continue forever. But life sometimes takes unexpected turns. At that moment, I couldn't have imagined that this tranquil daily life was about to be greatly shaken. Monday, January 15, 2024. This morning started just like any other. The scent of coffee wafting through the kitchen and the pleasant sound from the toaster. Outside the window, a gloomy gray sky stretches out. The weather forecast says it will be cloudy with occasional rain. At the entrance, I can hear Lucas hurriedly preparing for school. "Mom, are you coming to watch my practice game today?" Lucas asked while munching on his pancakes. In front of him was a plate of pancakes generously topped with maple syrup and fresh blueberries. "Of course. I'm finishing early today, so I can pick you up," I answered with a smile. Michael had already finished preparing for work and was adjusting his tie. Recently, he had been rushing out of the house more often, barely finishing breakfast. "I'm heading out first," Michael briefly announced, placing his coffee cup in the sink. Usually, we would enjoy breakfast together as a family, but this morning felt unusually hurried. The day at the hospital was busier than usual. At 8 a.m., I changed into my white coat and attended the morning meeting in the pharmacy department. It's flu season, and we're swamped with outpatient prescriptions. Even lunch with my colleague Sarah was cut short to just 15 minutes. Sarah looked worried about me, but nothing particular was wrong. "I'm just a bit tired lately." The afternoon was focused on dispensing medications. Checking antibiotic inventory, verifying prescriptions, counseling patients on their medications. The clock hands quickly pointed to 5:30 p.m. "See you tomorrow, Rachel," Sarah called out. "You seem a bit down lately, are you okay?" "Yes, thank you. Just busy," I answered with a smile. But truthfully, I had been feeling something was off at home too. I was concerned that Michael was coming home later and we were spending less family time together. When I left the hospital, a light rain had started falling. I quickly got into my car and headed to Lucas's practice location. The sound of wipers clearing the rain somehow felt particularly lonely today. At exactly 6 p.m., I arrived at the soccer field. On the ground, Lucas and his teammates were enthusiastically practicing. My heart warmed at the sight of children in red uniforms running around energetically in the rain. "Good evening, Mrs. Burns," other parents greeted me warmly. We huddled under umbrellas, sharing our usual conversations about our children's growth and weekend games. After practice, Lucas excitedly told me about today's session. "Hey Mom, did you see my shot?" While helping him change, I nodded and replied, "You did very well." In the car on our way home, Lucas's cheerful voice filled the space. "What's for dinner?" "I only have math homework today." I really want to win next week's game. These casual conversations made me feel warm inside. How about pizza? When I suggested it, Lucas's eyes lit up. Yay! I wonder if Dad can eat with us. By the time we arrived at the apartment parking lot, the rain had become heavier. Lucas and I hurried to the elevator with our shopping bags. Lucas seemed a bit tired and was leaning against my arm. I pressed the elevator button, selecting the 3rd floor. The digital display slowly counted up the floors. At this moment, I still didn't know. I had no idea that this ordinary day would dramatically change our family's life. When the elevator doors opened, a dimly lit hallway greeted us. One fluorescent light was flickering faintly. It was a strangely quiet night with the sound of rain echoing in the distance. Lucas, appearing tired, held my hand tightly. Just as we started walking down the short hallway to room 304 with our shopping bags, it happened. Rachel. I stopped at the sudden voice. Turning around, I saw Martha bursting out of room 302 across the hall. Her expression, usually calm, was more urgent than I'd ever seen. Wearing a light purple cardigan, both her hands were trembling. Don't go home. Something terrible is happening. Martha's voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. Her eyes were fixed on our apartment door. With trembling hands, she tried to pull me toward her apartment. Martha, what do you mean? My words were cut short as we heard sounds coming from our apartment. Something falling to the floor. And what sounded like people arguing in low voices. Mom. Lucas grabbed the hem of my clothes. I could feel his small hand trembling. That's when it happened. A loud sound echoed from room 304, either a gunshot or something breaking. Following that, a woman's scream. My body froze. Quickly, this way. Martha pulled us into her apartment. The sound of the door closing seemed unusually loud. My mind went blank. Michael? Who's in that room? Who screamed? Questions kept arising, but I couldn't find answers. The police. I need to call the police. With trembling hands, I took out my smartphone. It seemed to take twice as long as usual to unlock the screen. 911, what's your emergency? I heard what sounded like a gunshot from my home. What's your address? Riverside Gardens, room 304. Guided by the operator's calm voice, I provided the necessary information. During this time, intermittent sounds continued coming from the room. Something falling. Screaming. And people arguing intensely. In Martha's apartment, Lucas was trembling slightly. Martha held him, gently rubbing his back. It's okay, the police will be here soon. Martha's voice carried strength that tried to hide her anxiety. Lucas, let's pray together. I stood by the window, waiting for the police to arrive. The rain had gotten stronger, and the streetlights created a surreal scene as they reflected off the raindrops. The clock hands seemed to move unusually slowly. As the sound of sirens approached, blue and red lights illuminated the rain-soaked street. 2 police cars and 1 ambulance. I could see police officers quickly entering the building. Strong voices echoed in the hallway, and I instinctively pressed my ear to the door. Lucas was still closing his eyes in Martha's arms. Then came the sound of a door being broken down. The sound of officers rushing in. I felt like I might faint. Martha supported my back. "Rachel, sit down. Let the police handle this now." There was a knock on Martha's door. When the door opened, uniformed officers quietly entered the room. One was an older white male, and the other was a young black female. Both carried a professional air about them. "May we check the apartment across from your window?" the older officer asked politely. "If you have a telescope or camera, could we borrow it?" Martha nodded silently and retrieved an old telescope from her closet. "My husband used to enjoy astronomy," she explained in a soft voice. The young female officer set up the telescope by the window and began observing room 304. Though the rain made visibility poor, she could somewhat make out what was happening inside. In the hallway, other officers' voices crossed paths, and radio sounds came intermittently. We remained quiet in Martha's apartment, barely breathing. Outside the window, the rain continued falling. The officers finished their telescope observation and quickly began their strategy meeting. Through the radio, they seemed to be waiting for special tactical unit reinforcements. A gentle incense fragrance drifted through the room. Martha calmly began preparing tea. Her gestures showed thoughtfulness in trying to ease the tense atmosphere. She offered cups to the officers as well. They accepted with apologetic but grateful expressions. "Mrs. Burns," the female officer approached me. "Your husband or any other family members who might be home?" I answered with a trembling voice. "My husband should still be at work. But lately his return times have been irregular." My words caught in my throat. I felt my mouth go dry. "Anyone else?" "My sister. She recently moved back from our parents' home and sometimes visits." The officers exchanged glances. On the radio, a voice announced the tactical unit's arrival. The young female officer returned to the window and looked through the telescope. "No change in the room situation. The woman isn't moving. The man is." She paused for a moment. "He appears to be operating a cell phone." Lucas seemed to have finally regained some composure. However, he still flinched at occasional sounds from across the hall. I held his hand tight. The warmth of his small hand was my only support right now. "Rachel, you're a strong woman," Martha spoke in a quiet voice. "Whatever happens, we're here for you." Those words nearly brought tears to my eyes. But I couldn't cry in front of Lucas. I took a deep breath and suppressed my trembling heart. When the tactical unit burst into the room, they found a shocking scene. Ashley was on the floor, conscious but had hit her head hard during the struggle. Michael stood in the corner of the room, holding pieces of a broken vase. The room was completely ransacked, with the table overturned and papers and photos scattered across the floor. Ashley was transported to the hospital by ambulance. Along with treatment for her head injury, doctors decided to keep her for observation due to her unstable mental state. During the subsequent investigation, Ashley was admitted to a psychiatric hospital under emergency status. She had been making suicidal statements while in an agitated state, leading psychiatrists to determine she needed protective medical care. I had to hear the details from the police officers. What they told me far exceeded my imagination. Could you please verify these pieces of evidence? The senior detective placed transparent evidence bags in front of me. They contained multiple smartphones, bundles of receipts, handwritten notes, and photographs. My hands were shaking. But I needed to know the truth. The first thing that caught my eye was a bundle of receipts from luxury hotels. Records of 15 stays at 5 high-end hotels in downtown Boston. All receipts were made out to Michael Burns. The total amount came to about $20,000. All dates were within the past 3 months. This is... Words failed me. Next, the officer showed me screenshots from Ashley's smartphone. They revealed threatening exchanges with Michael. I need more money this month. If you can't pay, I'll tell your wife everything. Why are you doing this to me? Isn't this the path you chose? Who continued the relationship with me? Following the dates of the messages, the beginning of everything became clear. 3 months ago, Ashley went through a divorce. I'd heard it was due to domestic violence from her husband, but I didn't know more details. She had rented an apartment near our parents' home and continued her work as an influencer. Behind her flashy social media posts, she had been financially desperate. The first contact apparently happened after a family dinner. It all started when Michael offered Ashley financial support. Their relationship of confiding in each other gradually evolved into secret meetings. The scattered photographs documented this progression in detail. Dining at expensive restaurants, pictures of them together on trips, security camera images from hotel lobbies. All had been systematically collected as evidence. Let me explain the details of today's incident, the detective began in a quiet voice. Ashley had come tonight to make her final demand, $50,000 in cash. She threatened to expose everything if he didn't comply, even bringing out a replica gun. When Michael refused her demands for the first time, they got into a physical altercation. Ashley's emotions exploded, and the room turned into chaos. Behind this lay Ashley's deep-seated emotions. Complex feelings toward her sister who had always been praised by their parents since childhood. Years of being compared during school days. Jealousy over her sister's happy marriage. Resentment over her own failed marriage. Everything had intertwined, ultimately leading her to decide to destroy her sister's home. The police investigation also revealed Michael's situation. Fear of losing his position at work, anxiety about losing his family. His indecisive personality had driven him to make the worst choices. What started as small requests for financial help gradually increased in amount. He had depleted his savings and maxed out his credit cards. This is the final threatening note found at the scene. Ashley's handwritten note specified exact amounts, deadlines, and threats if demands weren't met. Even bank account details for transfers were meticulously recorded. It was evidence of a sister's calculated revenge. In Martha's room, Lucas had fallen asleep from exhaustion. Outside the window, the rain continued falling. Now knowing the truth, this rain seemed to mirror the emotions swirling violently in my heart. There was just one thing I didn't understand. Why had Martha helped us at that time? Actually, Martha began speaking quietly. I had noticed something strange about Ashley's behavior recently. And tonight, when I saw her enter the building in an unusual state. truth sometimes far exceeds our imagination. It confronts us with reality in an almost cruel clarity. 1 week after that night's events, all the truth had come to light, and my heart was filled with complex emotions. Through police investigation, Ashley was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for emergency care. Though it was a replica, threatening someone with a gun is a serious crime. However, considering her mental state, our parents arranged for her protective medical care. Michael admitted to everything, the affair and the financial transactions. He had already reported it to his company and was facing demotion. He sends apologetic messages every day, but I'm not ready to reply yet. This past week, Lucas and I have been staying at my parents' house. Today too, the scent of my mother's tea wafts through the kitchen. Though it was painful to explain everything to my parents, it was necessary. Rachel, we support your decision, my mother gently held my hand. Her warmth nearly brought tears to my eyes. We'll support Lucas with all our strength too. Father nodded silently. Though he usually doesn't show his emotions, today he had tears in his eyes, which was rare. I'll introduce you to a lawyer I know for the divorce proceedings. Father's voice was unusually gentle. Divorce from Michael. Every time I turn those two words over in my mind, my chest tightens. But I knew this was the best choice. For Lucas's sake, and for my own. When I returned to the hospital, I was saved by my colleagues' understanding attitudes. Sarah in particular helped me with everything from arranging my leave to adjusting my work shifts. Take time off whenever you need it, the department head kindly told me. You've worked so hard these past 10 years. Martha comes to check on us almost daily, always bringing something she's made. Somehow, the scent of her apple pie helps calm my heart. How's Lucas doing? Martha asked worriedly one day. He's talking regularly with the school counselor. The teacher says he's surprisingly positive. Indeed, Lucas was stronger than I expected. Of course, he still wakes up from nightmares sometimes. But during the day, he plays energetically with his friends and hasn't missed a single soccer practice. Will I never see Dad again? Lucas quietly asked one night before bed. Of course you will. Dad is still Dad. We'll just be living separately for a while. Lucas nodded slightly at my words. I could see a mature understanding in his eyes. A month later, we moved to a new apartment. Though it's a bit further from the Charles River, it's closer to Lucas's school. It's a bright, clean place my parents found for us. On moving day, my hospital colleagues all came to help. Sarah gave us new curtains as a present, and other staff members brought their own warm gifts. A new beginning in a new place, Martha said as she brought us a houseplant. Like this plant, you'll both put down roots and grow strong. Thinking about Ashley still pains my heart. She's currently receiving counseling from a psychiatrist. Though our parents worry about her too, they understand the importance of maintaining distance for now. From the window of our new apartment, we can see a small park. On weekends, I can watch Lucas playing soccer there. I'm also slowly starting to sort out my feelings. Every morning when I look in the mirror before work, I notice myself changing little by little. The sadness hasn't disappeared, but a new strength is growing. Perhaps it's proof that we've overcome hardship. Mom, what's for dinner tonight? Lucas's voice came from the kitchen. Well, I smile. How about we order pizza as a special treat? Yay! Looking at my son's smile, I feel that even though the road ahead won't be smooth, we'll surely get through it. Our new life has just begun. And I believe that through this ordeal, we'll be bound together by stronger, deeper bonds. Outside the window, the rain had finally stopped, and the evening sun was breaking through the clouds. In my bedroom, where the morning sun filtered through white lace curtains, I took a deep breath as I awoke. Looking at Michael's profile as he slept beside me, I felt a surge of gratitude for our happy life together. We've been married for 5 years. Our new home in Maplewood, an upscale suburban neighborhood of Boston, is a white 2-story house. In the lawn, roses that Michael tenderly cultivates every holiday are blooming beautifully. Upstairs, we've prepared a room for the baby we hope to have someday. We chose soft yellow wallpaper and put it up together. It's a room filled with memories. My job as a real estate agent is to help others find their dream homes. But having my own home was my dream too. With my annual income of $80,000 and Michael's $150,000 as an investment division manager at Boston Capital Bank, we saved desperately to finally obtain our castle. Good morning, Linda. Michael wakes up and smiles at me gently. His mild-mannered, polite nature always shows me unchanging kindness. Though he has a perfectionist side, that's part of his charm. His vulnerability to pressure is something I want to support him through. On holidays, it's become our habit to enjoy brunch at Flower Bakery and Cafe nearby. Surrounded by the aroma of freshly baked pastries, Michael and I share stories about our week, work talk, future dreams, and thoughts about the children we hope to have someday. Volunteer work at church is also our precious time together. After Sunday's service at First Baptist Church of Boston, helping with the children's Bible study has become our routine. Seeing the children's innocent smiles makes my desire to become a mother grow stronger. It was at this church that Michael and I met. At a Christmas charity event 6 years ago, he picked up the scarf I had dropped in the crowd. "This scarf has such a lovely color," he said with a smile that I can still vividly remember. Afterward, we had coffee, just the two of us, at a cafe near the church. We got caught up talking about our values and lost track of time. Cherishing family, living honestly, helping those in need, our thoughts aligned surprisingly well. A year later, we pledged our love at the church. At our wedding, both Michael's parents and mine shed tears of joy. Since then, both families gather for Thanksgiving and Christmas, sharing warm moments together. After marriage, we didn't neglect investing in our future. While saving money as a dual-income couple, we also realized our dream of touring Europe during vacation. A kiss under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, coins tossed into the Trevi Fountain in Rome, the rain-washed streets of London, all are etched in our hearts as precious memories. About a year after moving into our new home, we began seriously thinking about having a baby. We completed testing at a fertility clinic, and both of us were diagnosed as healthy with no issues. Every night before bed, we pray together, asking God to bless us with a wonderful gift. On weekends, it's become our tradition to host dinner parties for couple friends we met at church. While enjoying homemade dishes, we chat about raising children. Seeing how happy our friends are makes my desire to become a mother grow stronger. From my office handling luxury real estate in Back Bay, I can see the Charles River flowing. During lunch breaks, I sometimes take walks along the river, imagining future dreams, the image of Michael and me walking hand in hand with our child. Just picturing it warms my heart. Though Michael keeps busy every day in the financial district, he always puts family first. On holidays, he makes sure to make time for walks in Boston Common or shopping on Newbury Street. Even when he seems stressed from work, he never shows an unhappy face at home. Our daily married life isn't flashy, but it's bound by genuine love. We choose ingredients at Whole Foods Market and cook dinner together. After meals, we cuddle on the living room sofa and share the day's events. Though it might seem trivial, these ordinary moments are priceless treasures to me. Lately, my real estate work has been going well too. I often handle luxury properties in Back Bay, and clients trust me deeply. I especially love helping young couples find homes. I'm always moved by their figures, starting new lives with dreams and hopes just like we did. Michael's evaluation at the bank has been steadily rising too. His serious and meticulous personality is highly valued as an investment division manager. Though he says, "It's thanks to you," I know it's all due to his own efforts. Even when weekend work increases, I'm deeply grateful for his kindness in always making it home for dinner time. On our anniversaries, Michael always prepares surprises. Last year, we had dinner at a lovely restaurant in Cambridge. This year, he got tickets to the Boston Symphony Orchestra. His words, whispering, "I wanted to see your smile," always melt my heart. At the church Sunday school, I teach children Bible stories. I love seeing their eyes shine when I tell stories of creation or Noah's Arkansas. I hope to someday pass on God's love to my own child in the same way. Michael is also devoted to youth ministry work at the church. In our garden, flowers bloom through all seasons. Cherry blossoms and daffodils in spring, roses and lavender in summer, cosmos in autumn, and camellias ordered from Japan for winter. Taking care of them with Michael on holidays has become our routine. My heart flutters imagining children playing in this garden someday. We've already placed a baby crib in the children's room next to our bedroom. Though friends said, "Isn't it too early?" we wanted to give form to our wishes and prayers. Soft yellow wallpaper with white wooden furniture. We even installed a projector that displays starry skies on the ceiling. We both eagerly await the day this room will be filled with happy laughter. That day too began like any other morning. When I woke before the alarm clock, it was still dim outside. Quietly slipping out of bed while watching Michael's sleeping face, I decided to make a special breakfast. In the kitchen, I started preparing French toast, Michael's favorite. I soaked brioche from the bakery in custard made with milk, eggs, and vanilla essence. The scent of cinnamon spread through the quiet kitchen. French toast with maple syrup, fresh berry salad, freshly ground coffee. Just as I finished setting the table, I heard Michael's footsteps coming down the stairs. "Good morning, Linda." Another beautiful morning. Though Michael smiled gently as always, I sensed something special in the air. It seemed he had something on his mind. Over breakfast, Michael spoke up. "I want to make tonight special. I should be able to come home early, so I want to cherish our time together." I felt my heart race. We've been trying to conceive. But tonight, I sensed his desire to focus simply on loving each other. I'm looking forward to it, I answered, feeling my cheeks grow warm. Before heading to our respective workplaces, our goodbye kiss at the entrance was a bit longer than usual. Watching Michael's back as he left, my heart swelled with anticipation for tonight. During work, a message arrived on my smartphone from Michael. I should be able to get home by 7. I'll bring your favorite wine. At my Back Bay office, I kept checking the clock while reviewing property documents. Though I had 3 new property assessments scheduled, I couldn't quite concentrate due to my excitement for tonight's special evening. My colleague Jennifer even joked, "Linda, you're practically glowing today." Even while showing properties, watching young couples' sweet interactions reminded me of when we were house hunting ourselves. The afternoon meeting felt longer than usual. Though the fertility clinic appointment was marked on my calendar, tonight I just wanted to forget everything and spend time with Michael. 30 minutes before closing time, I neatly organized the documents on my desk and confirmed tomorrow's schedule. After touching up my makeup and reapplying my favorite lipstick, I felt like my evening date with Michael had already begun in my heart. When I got home, Michael's car was already in the parking lot. Opening the front door, I heard soft jazz playing. In the living room, candlelight flickered. "Welcome home, Linda." Michael, changed into a white shirt, smiled holding a bottle of red wine. The table was set with an assortment of cheeses and fruits. "Take your time having a shower. There's no need to rush." Michael's words warmed my heart. After showering, I changed into my favorite silk negligee. I carefully blow-dried my hair and dabbed on just a touch of perfume. When I returned to the living room, Michael was waiting on the sofa. The deep red wine in our glasses sparkled beautifully in the candlelight. On the table, not only was there my favorite cheese platter, but also tiramisu from the always crowded Bova's bakery. Michael must have stopped by North End on his way home. Outside the window, trees swayed gently in the streetlights. In the distance, Boston's city lights twinkled like stars. Michael had put on music by Keith Jarrett, my favorite jazz pianist, and his quiet melodies gently wrapped around the room's atmosphere. Cheers! The sound of our glasses clinking echoed in the quiet room. While drinking wine, we shared stories about our day, work talk, future dreams, and thoughts about the children we hope to have someday. As our conversation progressed, the distance between us naturally grew closer. Michael's hand touched my hair. His fingertips gently traced my neck. I felt my heartbeat quicken. "I love you, Linda." His whispered words made me feel warm to my core. By the time we moved to the bedroom, both our breathing had grown slightly heavy. Even on the stairs up to the second floor, Michael wouldn't let go of my hand. Opening the bedroom door, candles were lit here too, with the scent of lavender wafting through the air. Fresh sheets had been laid on the bed, and the pillows were softly fluffed. Michael had made all these preparations for tonight. By the window, white roses he must have bought during the day were arranged, their forms glowing divinely in the moonlight. As I lay on the bed, Michael gently embraced me. His body heat and the feeling of his soft lips. Words of love whispered in my ear made me feel warm to my core. His fingertips touching my silk negligee were as delicate as butterfly wings. "Linda, you are my everything." The words of love exchanged between kisses felt like eternal vows. This perfect moment with my beloved, it was God's greatest gift to us. That's when sudden, intense pain struck my lower abdomen. Ah, it hurts, my stomach. My body tensed with pain unlike anything I'd experienced before. Cold sweat broke out, and my vision began to blur. "Linda, are you all right?" Michael's voice seemed to come from far away. "Michael, help me." Though I desperately forced out the words, consciousness was slipping away. The last thing I saw was Michael grabbing his phone in panic. His voice calling an ambulance seemed hazy, as if heard underwater. "My wife suddenly." Michael's voice desperately explaining the situation. Then complete darkness enveloped me. I thought I heard the sound of an ambulance siren in the distance. But even that wasn't certain. Consciousness sank into deep, deep darkness. When consciousness began returning, the first thing I noticed was the strong smell of antiseptic. My whole body felt heavy, as if slowly rising from the bottom of a deep sea. Along with that, anxiety about the unfamiliar environment gradually invaded my consciousness. Opening my eyes, I saw an unfamiliar white ceiling. The hospital room's characteristic bluish-white light illuminated the quiet space. The regular dripping sound of the floor marked time like a second hand. Feeling warmth in my right hand, I turned my face slightly to see Michael holding my hand with an exhausted expression. Dark circles were carved under his eyes, and his shirt was wrinkled. In his profile as he stared into space, I saw shadows I'd never seen before. "Michael." When I called out in a hoarse voice, he jumped up. His widened eyes held a mixture of relief and fear. "Linda." "Thank goodness, thank goodness." Large tears welled up in Michael's eyes. His hands trembled, gripping mine tightly as if afraid I would disappear. How long was I asleep? My throat was dry, and my voice wouldn't come out properly. Michael hurriedly offered me water. "About 24 hours, the nurse explained kindly as she entered the room. "Let me check your vital signs. Temperature, blood pressure, heart rate." While the nurse efficiently conducted the tests, I tried to trace my memories of last night. Wine, candles, and then sudden pain. The memories after that were as hazy as being in fog. "Dr. Smith will be here shortly," the nurse said before leaving, and silence returned to the hospital room. Michael seemed to have something to say, opening and closing his mouth several times. Though I felt something odd about his behavior, I closed my eyes again. The fatigue in my body hadn't completely lifted yet. After a while, Dr. Smith entered with a knock. A female doctor in her late 40s, she had eyes that suggested deep insight. "Linda, how are you feeling?" she asked in a gentle voice. "My body feels a bit heavy, but the pain has settled down." Dr. Smith nodded while making notes in the chart. Then, after a pause, she began. "This is difficult to say, but about your husband." At that moment, Michael's hand trembled. His face grew visibly pale. "What do you mean?" My voice rose slightly. The doctor took a deep sigh and slowly began explaining. "Your symptoms are caused by pelvic inflammatory disease. The cause is a sexually transmitted infection." My mind went blank. a sexually transmitted infection. But we're married. I couldn't process this incomprehensible information. Unfortunately, because this condition has persisted, there's a possibility of temporary infertility. Treatment will take time. The atmosphere in the examination room suddenly grew heavy. I could see the blood drain from Michael's face. "This is my responsibility," Michael began in a trembling voice. "It's all my..." His voice broke off there. Large tears fell from his eyes. He covered his face with both hands, his shoulders shaking slightly, as if a long-held burden had suddenly collapsed. "Michael." To my question, he maintained silence for a while. When he finally raised his face, he wore an expression of agony I'd never seen before. "An employee named Jessica, 6 months ago." The words came out in fragments. "A new employee assigned to the investment division. Smart, attractive, trusted by everyone." It started with casual conversation, gradually growing closer. Using a promotion on a new project as bait, she got close to him, gained leverage over him, and then... Each word stabbed my heart like a knife. Where did they kiss? The office? A hotel? When did it start? How often? Questions kept swirling in my head, but I couldn't voice them. My husband who had sworn to love me. My husband who wanted children. My husband who had pledged eternal love before God at First Baptist Church of Boston. My husband who went to Sunday service with me and was devoted to volunteer work. It all seemed like a bad joke. Why? My voice was barely a whisper. In that one word was packed all my questions, the sadness of betrayal, and anxiety about the future. Michael's confession didn't stop. Work pressure, anxiety about promotion, and words blaming his own weakness poured out. Casual conversations at his desk, drinks after meetings, and guilt after being intimate. Fear when symptoms began appearing. Self-loathing for continuing to hide everything. "I was scared of losing you." I couldn't respond to his tearful apology. After that, events took an unexpected turn. Michael's confession triggered an investigation at Boston Capital Bank. The internal investigation conducted by HR and legal revealed shocking facts one after another. Jessica had approached other married male employees with similar tactics. She deliberately formed relationships using promotions and money as bait, intentionally spreading infection. Not just the investment division, but managers in corporate sales and international operations had fallen into her trap. Victims continued to be revealed, and ultimately it was discovered that 5 married men had been deceived by the same method. She had been targeting promotions in each department and access to confidential information. Michael's face grew increasingly pale as he heard the investigation results. If only he had noticed earlier, if only he had had the courage to speak up, he could have prevented other victims, and above all, prevented me from going through this. His guilt seemed to deepen with each fact he learned. Dr. Smith picked up the test results and began explaining again. Antibiotic treatment has already begun. Fortunately, early detection was a blessing in disguise. Still, the impact this infection had on my body wasn't small. The inflammation in my fallopian tubes could affect the possibility of pregnancy. The dream of becoming a mother that I had taken for granted suddenly became a distant reality, and I felt deep despair. From the hospital room window, I could see the Maplewood streetscape. In this town, we were supposed to start a new life. The White House, the garden with roses, and the future children's room. All these dreams were crumbling like a castle built on sand. A church bell rang in the distance, and its sound resonated strangely in my heart. We would need to contact family and friends too. But how should I explain it? What face could I show to our church friends whom we meet every Sunday? The more I thought about it, the more heavily reality weighed on me. The sound of the Ford dripping continued relentlessly. The clock hands moved mercilessly forward as the evening sky turned blood red. The smell of antiseptic floating in the hospital room felt strangely cold, just like my current life. One morning, a week after being discharged from the hospital, I spread out divorce papers while gazing at the sunlight streaming through the window. The blank forms, not yet filled in, seemed oddly bright in the morning light. Since returning to my parents' home, my phone had been flooded with calls and apologetic messages from Michael. Though my parents initially showed their anger, they gradually softened their stance, saying, "Everyone makes mistakes, and forgiveness is important too." The pastor from First Baptist Church of Boston also came to visit me. God's teaching is forgiveness. The bonds of marriage grow stronger by overcoming trials. But I couldn't do it. More than the betrayal of trust, what I couldn't forgive was having my health and our future possibilities stolen by his weakness and silence. The children's room with its soft yellow wallpaper. Every time I opened that door, the emotions that welled up squeezed my chest. The possibility of having children isn't zero, Dr. Smith's words echoed like a distant bell. But treatment will take time. And even after recovery, careful monitoring will be necessary. In the white hospital room, listening to the drip of the Ford, I thought countless times. Could I live the rest of my life with this betrayal? Could I eat breakfast at the same table every morning and sleep under the same roof? The answer was no. Michael desperately begged for forgiveness. He visited my parents' home every day, repeatedly apologizing through tears. "Please give me another chance. I will change. I will make amends." Those words no longer held the endearment they once did. Instead, what I felt was deep fatigue and the certainty that our previous life would never return. "I've decided to divorce," I told him at the doorstep. Michael stood frozen, his face drained of color. At that moment, a strange sense of liberation enveloped my whole body. It felt like heavy chains had been removed, like fresh air flowing into my lungs. Over the next few days, I quietly worked on plans for my new life. Experience and connections built through real estate work. From there, a new mission emerged. While organizing my desk drawer at the Back Bay office, I found a photograph. A commemorative picture of Michael and me hanging wallpaper in our new home's nursery. The happy smiles from that time now felt like distant memories. Turning the photo over, a new idea came to me. New Chapter Real Estate, a company providing safe homes for wounded women to start new lives. I immediately went to investigate office buildings in the Seaport District. The sea breeze felt pleasant, and the vitality of the new business district seemed to encourage my resolve. I began making contacts with women's support organizations like Women's Lunch Place and Jane Doe Inc. Your experience will surely become hope for other women. The director of Women's Lunch Place's words made my chest warm. The new office has high ceilings and large windows overlooking Boston Harbor. The interior is predominantly white, with lavender potted plants placed here and there. A simple, clean space. Here, I want to counsel women seeking new lives. Housing support programs for DV victims and those in financial hardship. While compiling the business plan, hope welled up that my experience might become strength for someone else. I begin filling out the divorce papers. Writing each character, I felt this wasn't an ending but a new beginning. Outside the window, maple trees were starting to bud. The soft spring sunshine seemed to bring new hope. The wind from the sea gently stirred the lace curtains. 3 months later. In my new Seaport District office, I was meeting with my first client. A young mother who had escaped domestic violence. As she held her small child and consulted about housing in a trembling voice, I felt a strong sense of purpose. New chapter real estate received more response than expected. New clients visit every week through referrals from Women's Lunch Place. Through partnership with Jane Doe Incorporated, we now have access to the DV Victim Support Network throughout Massachusetts. A safe home is the first step to a new life. Hope lights up in the client's eyes at my words. That moment is the essence of this work. At First Baptist Church of Boston, I also started a new support group. Women gather in a church room every Wednesday night. There, women with similar experiences share their pain and encourage each other. Your courage has become our hope. Those words from one group participant touched my heart deeply. I also joined the Boston Women Entrepreneurs Network, expanding connections with women active in various fields. A female real estate investor I met there became a partner who regularly provides information about affordable properties. On a spring afternoon when I could feel new life budding, I stood by the office window overlooking the sea, reflecting on my journey so far. The wounded past certainly exists as part of me. But now it has become nourishment that makes me stronger. The phone rings, a call for an appointment with a new client. Opening my calendar, I smiled secretly. I hadn't been wrong to choose this path. The mission statement on the wall reads, "Safe and hopeful homes for all women. A season of new buds." My life, and the lives of women needing support, were beginning a new chapter with certain hope. Michael ended up resigning from the bank. Following the internal investigation results, he was allowed to leave honorably like the other victims. At our final parting, he repeated the words, "I'm truly sorry." I heard he's now back in Chicago where his parents live, helping with their family business. Jessica Morrison was arrested. Intentional spread of STIs, extortion, illegal acquisition of confidential information. Various charges came to light, and she ultimately received a prison sentence. Her actions weren't merely for financial gain but revenge against men in power. Court records showed that harassment she suffered at a previous workplace had led her down a twisted path. Ironically, this news created significant ripples in the financial industry, triggering the introduction of new prevention programs against workplace sexual violence and harassment. It unexpectedly became a tailwind for my support activities, making this experience a foundation for a better future. That has now become the guiding principle of my life. My beauty salon, Carol's Beauty, has 3 locations on Main Street in Greenwich, Connecticut. One holiday morning, I had just finished the accounting work for the stores. Outside the window, maple leaves were swaying in the early summer breeze. While tucking my shoulder-length brown hair behind my ear, I reviewed the last page of the financial statements. "Mom, how does my hair look?" In front of the salon's large mirror, my daughter Emma showed me her innocent smile. Her brown hair, similar to mine, falls in soft waves. I noticed that even though she had just turned 10, she was already nearly as tall as my shoulder. Her Greenwich private school uniform was impeccably neat, even though it was the weekend. "It looks lovely, Emma. Did Jessica braid it for you?" At my words, Jessica, our veteran stylist, gave a gentle smile. Emma had been adored by the staff since she was little, and the salon had become like a second home to her. While I struggled daily to balance work and family life, I managed somehow thanks to the support of my staff. "Carol, will you be back this evening?" I heard my husband Michael's voice from behind. Behind his black-rimmed glasses, his eyes carried their usual meticulousness. He'd recently received a promotion at his investment advisory firm and seemed busier than ever. His perfectly ironed shirt and impeccably knotted tie, his neat appearance hadn't changed since we first met through a friend's introduction 12 years ago. Back then, I was a stylist working at a local salon. I had a dream of owning my own salon someday, though it was rather vague. Michael was just beginning to make his mark as a young investment analyst. Attracted by his sincere character and clear vision for the future, I decided to marry him after just a year of dating. However, that decision also marked the beginning of a complicated relationship with my mother-in-law, Barbara. Barbara Smith was a former high school teacher. Raised in a wealthy family, she always wore high-end brands with her gray short hair. While she maintained the facade of a well-educated, sensible person, her interference in our married life often crossed boundaries. She was particularly critical of my running a beauty salon, making no effort to hide her outdated belief that I should be a full-time housewife. She often lectured me about living up to her son's social status. Nevertheless, with Michael's support, I gradually expanded to multiple salons. My relationship with Barbara maintained a superficial pleasantness. If we happened to meet at Whole Foods Market, we would exchange friendly conversation within earshot of acquaintances, and she would show a cooperative attitude during activities at First Presbyterian Church. However, I didn't miss the critical gaze behind her smile. Still, her love for her granddaughter Emma seemed genuine. She would give expensive presents for birthdays and Christmas, and frequently wanted to spend time with her during holidays. Sometimes I felt uncomfortable with her excessive displays of affection, but seeing Emma's happiness, I had to accept it. We live in Greenwich's upscale residential area. Our white colonial-style house is the fruit of our labor, acquired through Michael's promotion and the success of my salons. In the spacious yard, we often host barbecue parties with neighboring families on weekends, and children run around playing. We lead fulfilling days, actively participating in PTA meetings and church community activities. Emma excels in school and keeps busy with piano and ballet lessons after classes. Growing up surrounded by her parents' love, she has developed a bright and honest personality, earning trust from those around her. I should be back by 6 p.m. I answered Michael's question while placing my hand on his shoulder. Working on holidays wasn't unusual, but today was special. We were preparing for a home party to celebrate Emma's 10th birthday. We planned to invite neighboring families and Emma's close friends for a grand celebration. Barbara is looking forward to it too. She's called several times about the present. I nodded slightly at Michael's words. Lately, I'd noticed my mother-in-law becoming even more intense in her interactions with Emma. I heard she had taken her shopping at an expensive department store just last week. This was an unusually lavish outing for Barbara, who typically emphasized the importance of an education-focused upbringing. "Mom, Grandma's been acting strange lately," Emma had mumbled one night. When I tried to learn more, she would just say, "It's nothing," and change the subject. Perhaps she sensed something about her grandmother's gifts. My usually bright and straightforward daughter had been showing increasingly evasive behavior. Outside the window, the early summer sunlight was turning the maple leaves golden. At that moment, I couldn't have imagined how our peaceful daily life was about to be dramatically shaken. At 3 p.m. as planned, neighboring families and Emma's friends began gathering in our yard. Colorful balloons swayed in front of our white colonial house under the gentle June sunshine. Michael started preparing the barbecue grill with his friend Tom, and the charcoal's savory aroma wafted on the early summer breeze. "Carol, need any help?" Jennifer, our next-door neighbor, called out while bringing her homemade potato salad. We had become close after Emma and her daughter Kate became classmates at Greenwich Private School. She often helps me with PTA activities too. "Thank you. Could you help me set up the dessert table?" I pointed to the birthday cake I was finishing in the kitchen. Pink sugar roses were carefully arranged on top of the white frosting. The number 10 candles were still waiting in their box. Children had already started running around in the yard, their laughter ringing pleasantly. Emma was playing on the swing with her best friends Kate and Sarah, wearing a light blue dress. The hairstyle Jessica had done for her that morning swayed with each bounce. "Everyone, hungry? The burgers are ready." At Michael's call, the children rushed to the barbecue corner at once. Like a typical weekend father, he had changed from his usual meticulous suit into a casual polo shirt. Yet his eyes behind the black-rimmed glasses still held their usual seriousness. "Oh, sorry I'm late." Barbara arrived at that moment. Her gray short hair was perfectly styled, and her Chanel dress embodied the dignity of a former teacher. She was carrying a shopping bag from a luxury brand. "Grandma." As Emma ran over, Barbara beamed with a broad smile. Her love for her granddaughter at least seemed genuine. However, remembering her recent behavior, a small worry spread in my chest. By 5 p.m., the party was in full swing. The garden tables were laden with dishes brought by neighboring families, and the adults were enjoying pleasant conversation. The children were running around, chasing balloons and playing hide and seek. "Time for cake." At my voice, everyone gathered around the main table. The 10 candles were lit, and "Happy Birthday to You" echoed through the garden. Emma's eyes sparkled in the candlelight. "Emma, congratulations. Now, it's time for presents." After cutting the cake, Barbara was the first to stand up. From her luxury brand shopping bag, she took out a deep red box with a small jewelry store logo. Oh my! When the box was opened, the adults let out a collective gasp. A cute pink gold watch. Small diamonds sparkled on the face, and from the brand name alone, it was clearly quite expensive. The air seemed to freeze for a moment at this gift that was clearly inappropriate for a 10-year-old. "Emma, do you like it?" Barbara's voice was full of expectation. However, at that moment, I didn't miss how Emma's expression clouded over. "I don't want to wear it." Emma's voice was surprisingly firm. It was the first time my usually obedient daughter had refused a present. "Why not? Your grandmother carefully chose this for you." Michael spoke up in a reproaching tone, but Emma shook her head. "Emma, what's wrong?" When I asked, my daughter showed an expression for a moment as if she was about to say something. But then she bit her lip and mumbled in a small voice, "Nothing." Saying that, Emma suddenly became teary-eyed and ran into the house. A heavy atmosphere hung over those of us left behind. "Well, she's just a child. Her mood will change." I felt something off about Barbara's unexpectedly calm attitude. Rather, she seemed almost as if she had anticipated this reaction. Michael, wearing a confused expression, said, "I'll go talk to her," and headed into the house. I stood frozen, staring in the direction Emma had disappeared. Why would my daughter, who usually tells me everything, act this way today of all days? And what was the meaning behind those cryptic words? I could feel the worry in my chest gradually growing larger. Several days passed after the birthday party, but Emma never once tried to wear the watch from Barbara. The gift box remained untouched in the corner of her room. Every morning during her preparations for school, Emma would just glance at the box but never approach it. "Emma, why won't you wear such a lovely watch?" On Saturday evening, I sat on my daughter's bed and gently asked. Emma stopped her pencil in the middle of her math homework and showed an anxious expression. The soft evening light streaming through the window gently illuminated her brown hair. "You'll understand if you wear it." I caught my breath at those words. They had a somewhat urgent tone, different from her usual bright voice. She wouldn't say anything more and turned back to her homework. On her desk lay textbooks with the Greenwich private school crest. That night, I couldn't sleep. Next to me, Michael was breathing steadily. His sleeping face without his black-rimmed glasses held the same gentleness as when we met 12 years ago. Yet somehow tonight, I felt I could see an unfamiliar shadow in that sleeping face. The clock had passed midnight, and the house was completely silent. Outside the window, soft moonlight filtered in. The shadows of trees created eerie patterns on the curtains. From upstairs, I could faintly hear Emma's breathing. I quietly slipped out of bed and put on my slippers to head downstairs. Carefully stepping one by one down the old stairs to avoid creaking, I made my way down. On the kitchen table lay several photos from Emma's birthday party, scattered where I had left off organizing the album yesterday. Among them, I noticed a photo of Barbara giving Emma the watch. Emma's clouded expression was clearly visible even in the photograph. And in Barbara's smiling face behind her, I could sense something calculating. Using my phone's flashlight function, I quietly retrieved the watch from Emma's room. Looking at my daughter's sleeping face, I felt my chest tighten. I took the watch out of its deep red box and placed it on the kitchen table. In the moonlight and flashlight's beam, the pink gold surface gleamed mysteriously. When I picked it up, it certainly had the weight of a luxury item. It was clearly different from the children's watches you'd see in department store displays. But beyond that, something felt off. Staring at the back cover, I recalled my daughter's words. "You'll understand if you wear it." What did those words mean? Remembering what I'd learned from a friend who repairs watches, I nervously touched the back cover. To my surprise, it opened quite easily. For a luxury watch, it should have had a more secure structure. It can't be. When I brought the flashlight closer, there was clearly a small electronic device embedded there, different from the watch's mechanical parts. My hand started trembling. Was this a listening device? While my mind went blank, suddenly all the pieces seemed to connect. Emma's unnatural behavior, Barbara's calm reaction, and various recent events. Particularly striking were how Barbara had suddenly increased her outings with Emma, and how she had been asking oddly specific questions about my salon's management policies. I was frozen with fear and confusion. The watch on the kitchen table cast an eerie shadow in the moonlight. Outside, the night wind rustled the trees, breaking the silence. I barely slept that night. Even after returning to bed, Michael's presence beside me felt more distant than ever before. Waiting for dawn, I contacted the police before my family woke up. Greenwich Police Department. I found a listening device in the watch my daughter received for her birthday. On the phone, I tried my best to explain the situation calmly, desperately suppressing my trembling voice. I provided the date, the circumstances of receiving the watch, and how I discovered it, as accurately as possible. The police took the matter seriously and immediately dispatched officers. 2 uniformed officers arrived at our house while the morning mist still hung in the air. The watch was carefully handled as evidence, and detailed questioning began. I watched breathlessly as an officer wearing white gloves carefully placed the watch in an envelope. Emma, who woke up at the sound, was surprisingly calm when she saw the officers. Rather, she seemed to show an expression of relief. When she came down the stairs in her usual light blue pajamas, her face showed a peace I hadn't seen in a while. "Emma, did you know about the watch?" To my question, my daughter gave a small nod. Tears glistened in her eyes. She immediately ran to me and held me tightly. Feeling her small body trembling, I felt my heart would break. Michael's behavior, on the other hand, was clearly strange. When informed of the situation, he became excessively agitated and immediately tried to call his mother. His usual meticulous demeanor had completely vanished, replaced by a panicked state. "Wait, this must be some misunderstanding. Mother would never do such a thing." There was no need to contact the police. Michael spoke frantically and showed an uncooperative attitude toward the police investigation. His behavior was unimaginable from his usually calm and meticulous self. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and he couldn't hide the trembling in his hands. As the sun began to rise, warm light streamed into the house. However, that light also sharply revealed the dark shadows we hadn't known existed in our family. Photos from Emma's birthday party still lay scattered on the kitchen table. The photos of our family smiling happily now felt like they were from an ironically distant past. The police investigation progressed surprisingly quickly. The listening device found in the watch was a high-performance device using the latest technology, capable of clearly recording conversations. The recorded data was automatically uploaded to the cloud, allowing conversations to be listened to anytime, anywhere. However, this was just the entrance to a terrifying truth. "Mrs. Smith, do you have a moment?" A female detective from Greenwich Police spoke to me with a grave expression. In a small interview room at the police station. Sunlight streaming through the window illuminated the stack of documents on the table. My hands were trembling, and I felt as if I were in a nightmare. "We've finished interviewing suspect Michael Smith. The situation is far more serious than we initially suspected." The stack of documents handed to me. There, facts were recorded that would shatter in an instant the trust built over 12 years of marriage. Each page I turned revealed new shocks. Michael had hidden debts exceeding $1 million. Failed investments and gambling addiction. Contrary to his outwardly meticulous attitude, he had been living a double life. Huge losses at luxury casinos, failures in high-risk investments, and ever-growing debt figures. Unbelievable numbers were lined up there. Even more shocking was his affair with a colleague at the investment firm, Jennifer Roberts, who had joined the company 2 years ago as Michael's subordinate. They were already engaged and had planned their new life together after his divorce from me. The wiretapping appears to have been planned for about half a year. Concrete preparations began around last December. The detective's voice seemed to come from far away. Michael and his mother Barbara had been targeting the revenue from my business expansion. This happened just as Carol's Beauty had opened its third location and plans for a fourth were progressing. They had tried to use all my efforts for their own benefit. They were trying to record your conversations and gather unfavorable evidence to gain an advantage in the divorce property settlement. This is what suspect Michael has stated in questioning. The detective read from the documents. "My wife's business became too successful, and my position became precarious. I intended to demand control of the salons in the divorce. Mother never liked her from the start and supported my plan. I felt guilty about using Emma, but there was no other way. They were particularly targeting business confidential information and emotional content discussed in personal conversations. Barbara's involvement was also revealed in detail. Not only did she know about her son's debts, but she had actively participated in the plan. Her long-standing aversion to me had been the driving force. Not suitable for my son's social status. That's what she stated in questioning. Was it her pride as a former high school teacher and her sense of belonging to the upper class that drove her this far? What was most unforgivable was their attempt to use Emma. The idea of the watch with the listening device had come from Barbara. School, lessons, friends' houses, they tried to use Emma's wide range of activities to record conversations between my daughter and me. In particular, Barbara knew that I would take Emma with me to look at new locations before Carol's Beauty's new store opening, and she had been waiting for that opportunity. The cute design intended for children was perfect camouflage to avoid suspicion. The gleaming pink gold and small diamond decorations. A gift that no one would question for a 10th birthday. Thinking about the malice hidden behind it, I couldn't stop trembling. Children are innocent. Emma's courageous action led to solving this case. I nodded deeply at the detective's words. Perhaps Emma had instinctively sensed the scheme behind her grandmother's abnormal affection. Her refusal of that watch must have been pure childlike intuition. Events unfolded rapidly. Michael was arrested for installing the listening device. Just before the police took him away, Michael turned to me and shouted, "Carol, please. This was all for you. Your business was doing too well, I just. His words made me feel nauseous. His appearance in police handcuffs was no longer that of the husband I knew. He was immediately fired from the investment firm, losing his position and reputation in an instant. Debt collectors descended like an avalanche once his loans became public. His mistress cut off all contact as soon as he was arrested. Barbara was also arrested as an accomplice. As she left the interrogation room, she stared at me and spitefully declared, "Someone of your status should never have married my son. A mere hairdresser." I was planning to give Emma an education worthy of our family lineage. Her arrogant attitude remained unchanged even after arrest. Her gray short hair was disheveled, and her luxury brand clothes looked out of place at the police station. After being released on bail, her position in Greenwich's social circles changed completely. The connections she had built over many years crumbled overnight, and friends and acquaintances turned their backs on her. She was no longer seen in the First Presbyterian Church community. Ironically, her twisted obsession with her son resulted in significantly depleting her own retirement assets. That night, Emma and I sat together on the living room sofa. Outside the window, the twilight sky was turning purple. My daughter's small hand tightly gripped mine. That warmth was my greatest comfort now. "Mom, we'll be okay." Emma's eyes held a strong light of determination. "Yes, things might be difficult from now on. But as long as we have this mother-daughter bond." I held my daughter tightly. Warm tears rolled down my cheeks. "Mom, let's bake cookies together again in our new house. Can I invite Kate too?" I couldn't help but smile at Emma's words. "Yes. This isn't an ending, but a new beginning." The next day, I met with a lawyer and immediately began preparing for divorce proceedings. Joseph Morgan is one of Greenwich's top specialists in his field. Naturally, I would retain custody of Emma. Since the evidence was clear-cut, he said we could proceed advantageously. As for the salon, I've decided to use this as an opportunity to aim for new developments. I decided to proceed with plans for the fourth location as scheduled. This incident might temporarily affect our reputation. But the trust we've built up won't be easily shaken. If anything, the support from my staff seems stronger than before. On the weekend, I went to look at a new property with Emma. It's a modest single-family home in a quiet residential area. There's a young maple tree planted in the yard, which will be beautifully green in spring. It's a small tree now, but I'm sure it will grow tall along with Emma. I love it here. I can see the garden from my room. Watching Emma happily run around the yard, I made a vow in my heart that I would definitely grasp happiness together with this child. Whatever difficulties might await us, we can overcome them. The summer sunlight made the maple leaves sparkle. It felt like the radiance of our new life. 3 months have passed since then. One October morning, as the maple leaves were beginning to turn red, Emma and I had just finished settling into our new home. A week after moving in, we'd finally emptied all the boxes, and our new house was starting to feel like home. "Mom, look. I can see the maple tree in the garden perfectly from my room." Emma peeked her face out from the second-floor window, waving happily. Her smile was regaining its former brightness day by day. The weekly counseling sessions have been more effective than expected. According to Dr. Brown, Emma is showing a remarkably positive attitude in dealing with her feelings. I'm glad I found the courage to talk to Mom then. I believed Mom would definitely protect me. When I heard she said this during counseling, I felt tears welling up. The divorce proceedings proceeded smoothly, with me securing custody of Emma. The property division was also settled in my favor due to the discovery of serious illegal wiretapping. Michael's compensation payment was also finalized. At Greenwich Private School, Emma continues to thrive. If anything, she seems even more cheerful in her friendships, as if a burden has been lifted. Emma seems really vibrant lately. I was truly happy when Kate's mother Jennifer said that. I've become even more actively involved in PTA activities than before. I'm experiencing the comfort of relationships without secrets or hidden agendas. As for the salon, we were able to open our 4th location as planned. All staff members came together to support us, and if anything, this incident seems to have strengthened our team's unity. A local business magazine even featured me as a female entrepreneur who overcame adversity. The other day, I received a thick letter of apology from Barbara. However, I returned it unopened. I maintain absolutely no contact with Michael. By court order, their contact with Emma has been legally restricted. Emma and I planted herbs in our new garden. Thyme, rosemary, basil. By next spring, we'll have a small herb garden. While tilling the soil, I was thinking. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns. But what's truly important has always been clear. As a mother, as an entrepreneur, and as a woman. I'm confident my choices weren't wrong. Mom, can Kate come over to play tomorrow? Emma, who had been helping with the gardening and was covered in dirt, asked with a carefree smile. Of course. Shall we bake cookies and wait for her? At that moment, Emma suddenly hugged me tightly. Mom, thank you. You know, I'm really, really happy right now. While gently stroking my daughter's head, I nodded deeply. Indeed, our path hasn't been smooth. But with this mother-daughter bond, we can overcome any difficulty. That's what I believe. The maple in the garden was shining in the autumn sunlight. That light seemed as if it were blessing our new life. Tomorrow will surely be an even more wonderful day. I felt my heart warming with such a premonition.